Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies. How you doing? Welcome to another Midnight Black Mass here on the Potty Humor Network, youtube.com/pottyhumor, on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network at beyondringside.com. And now we got you covered. Technology. We're moving forward into the future. Turbines to speed. Beyond Ringside has launched a brand new Android app, which you can download. Just search Beyond Ringside in the Google Play Store, and you can stream Beyond Ringside Radio 24/7. You get all the great shows like Cause and Effect, To Be Determined with the always volatile and outspoken Wicked Nemesis. Of course, the main Beyond Ringside show with Fast Eddie Lane. All kinds of MMA, sport talk, wrestling radio. 24 hours. It's a live radio station. You can have it right there at the tip of your fingers with the Beyond Ringside app. Google Play Store, search Beyond Ringside. How awesome is that? Very happy to be a part of that and bringing the Midnight Black Mass to a whole new realm of listeners. And we're always excited to have new people aboard. Very, very happy with what's going on in 2015. Got a little sidetracked, had a little bit of delays. I know you get tired of hearing that. It happens from time to time, but life happens from time to time. And going to get a little bit personal with you here in a minute, and going to share something really deep from the bottom of my soul with my audience, because you guys have supported me from day one here on the Midnight Black Mass. You guys have been my rock at times when I've needed you. You've been my sounding board. You've let me express my opinions. You've agreed with them. You've disagreed with them. But we've built this nice family here with the Potty Humor Network and all the great people that have supported us over the years. And going back to people from music like Phil Anselmo from Pantera. I still can't believe we landed that interview. It's like my all-time hero, and we had him on here. We had Hank Williams III. We had Gideon Smith, Robert Everett from Gigi Allen's band. I mean, we had all these great musical guests, and of course, the wrestling world has just blown open. I kind of was trying to save that until the 5th volume because I've, been working in wrestling many years, got plenty of contacts there. So I knew I wasn't going to have any trouble filling time, and the people who have stepped forward just blow my mind, and they continue to. First off, a little bit of note on the Lufisto interview. I know I promised you that you were going to get that this week, and that's not what is happening, and that's because what I'm about to tell you. So real quick, get my only plug out of the way. I just briefly want to talk about Long Cold Winter, Empire Wrestling, huge event. You had to check it out. Home video will be released soon. You go to empirewrestling.net for more information. It was a huge card, packed house, and the Georgia Wrestling Matchmaker of the Year, Andrew Alexander, delivers the goods one more time, along with the impeccable Empire crew, and very happy to see that they're getting the recognition that they deserve. Congratulations to all the winners of the 2014 year-end awards. Jeff G. Bailey, again, wins the Manager of the Year, and most rightfully deserved. He is untouchable and is my mentor, and I will never, ever have a problem conceding greatness to him. So very excited for Empire, though, because Anarchy's always been the standard bearer, and now we got Southern Fried Wrestling coming up and really making a name for themselves, and Peach State's doing good. Apparently, man, Georgia Wrestling's just on fire right now. You got Stephen Platinum, PCW, and his show's running awesome, and they've got a great new show. Gonna give them a plug because I really enjoy listening to it. Head on over to Blog Talk Radio /PSP. That's the Peach State Pandemonium radio station for the Georgia Wrestling History Radio Network. They got a new show called Turning Point, scratch that, Tipping Point, hosted by Stephen Platinum and Miss Rachel, the lovely Miss Rachel, who is actually the only female graduate of Scumbag University. You want to know more about that? Ask her. She'll tell you. That's not an insult thing to her either. No, it's actually the fraternity that Jeff G. Bailey and his children of the managerial arts sort of we came together and we used that as our title. So what we learned from Jeff G. Bailey was, of course, he is the slimiest manager of all managers. So it's Scumbag University, and he's been the dean of that alma mater for many years, and he's taught many, many great talents the art of managing, wrestling, and many other things. It's not just limited to managers. Me and Rachel are about the only two managers that he actually protéged. So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty elite group, and happy to be there, but he also helped all the talent that he worked with, and look at the vast number of those guys. But yeah, check out the Tipping Point show. They do a really good job of covering all the hot topics in Georgia wrestling with a lot of variety show type element and entertainment peppered in. And they're my friends over there, so I just wanted to give them a shout out and tell you to check them out. I will be returning to Empire Wrestling on February the 27th. They'll have events all month long. They've got the Pro Wrestling Regenesis, which is kind of the young guy show, similar to the Wildside Friday nights, if you may recall those from back in the old days. They kind of serve the same purpose, but they run every Thursday night at the Empire Arena. They have Empire Women's Wrestling once a month, and Deep Southern Championship Wrestling is going to be coming back there at the end of the month. And then also DSCW Valentine's Vengeance coming up on February the 14th. Our guest next week on the show, Lufisto, will be appearing on that show. Her first time in the South, one of the most decorated female competitors in all the world, one of the toughest female competitors in all the world. She's mixed it up with dudes. She's mixed it up with other women. She's done death matches, but she can take you down to the mat. Coming down from, she's French-Canadian heritage. A very interesting story she's got to tell. So we're really looking forward to talking to her. Just wanted to plug that big event on February the 14th. Right now, disclaimer, I am being advertised for that event. There was a bit of a miscommunication in the scheduling. I'm still trying to work it out, but I do want to let everybody know, the Big Wood already knows, I am tentative for that event. I'm hoping to be there, but things are working against me, and I may not. So I just wanted to let you know that up front. The Big Wood is aware, and he's cool with it. So it's just a matter of, things happen. And that's what I'm about to get to right now. The reason for the delay, I'm dedicating the episode to today here on the Midnight Black Mass, is that I'm really having a hard time, guys. Rev's really down and out, and it's not something that'll last forever. I'm going to get over it, but I don't think I'll ever get over it, but I'll get past it, and I'll move on with my life. My granddad, I call him Papaw, which is an old Southern expression, a lot of Native American heritage down here in the South, and so that's sort of I think it's some sort of hybrid of Native American and white culture that was bred down through. But it is a grandfather name that you hear commonly in the South, and that's what I always called my granddad. He is one of the most amazing men I ever met. He's my absolute hero. He is the toughest guy I ever met. My actual father, a very good dude, like heart of gold, but, he's had issues with substance abuse and other things. He wasn't there for us very much when we were children, and so I really didn't have that father figure. Well, my grandpa, being the man he is, he stepped up and he filled that void, and he taught me how to play baseball, and he taught me about girls, and he taught me about music. He taught me how to play the guitar and the piano and how to sing. He taught me many, many valuable life lessons. He's a very unique guy. We live here right in the heart of the Bible Belt. Very religious man, but a die-hard Democrat, which is something you don't see here. He was always one to go against the grain. He gave 40 something years of his life to the U.S. Pipe and Foundry Company as the head electrician. He was the president of the Electricians Union at the U.S. Pipe and Foundry, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And he was a great baseball player. He played some semi-pro baseball. He was an all-star shortstop. He was a legendary base stealer. He was a country music musician. He played the guitar. He played the piano. He played the mandolin. He played the harmonica. He would sing. He started a band called the Tennessee High Riders, which is a group that consisted of all Wilson family members. And I even am a member of that band. I'm not a full-time member, but I often will go sit in and play with them. As many who know me know, I'm a huge fan of that old hardcore honky-tonk country music that just they don't make anymore today. What they're calling country today is not that. It's not what I grew up on, not what I consider country music. But, I grew up listening to these guys play their whole life. His brother Carlos was a guitar player, one of the best guitar players I ever met. Don't know how he didn't end up in Nashville because, he just is fucking shreds. He's got this sweet Gibson SG that he's had for years, and it looks like it came out of a museum vault. And man, when he gets on that thing, dude, he sounds like Don Rich from the Buck Owens band, and it's a magical thing. And so we've had this music in our lives, and Papa taught that to all of us, and he was always so proud of it. And with that band, he showed me compassion as far as the less fortunate. He wasn't a man of great means. He wasn't rich. He was a blue collar worker. And while he was in a management position, he had his own home and he was able to take care of a big family. He wasn't loaded, but that never stopped him from giving his time. He often organized many charity events for the community here in where I live in Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, where he would organize his band and several other bands they know. They go and they play for free, and they'd raise money for underprivileged children. They would do toy drives at Christmas where they would make sure that all the poor kids in the community that they knew Santa Claus wasn't coming. My papa made sure that Santa Claus came for a lot of people. So just in giving this eulogy, and that's what it is, unfortunately. I've been having a real hard time. He's more like my dad than he is my grandpa in terms of that role and like the bond that we had. And he's had cancer for several years. He got diagnosed originally with prostate cancer about 10 years ago. He's gone downhill pretty rapidly since then, but in the last couple of years, they found out it spread to his lungs and his brain and his bones. And it's horrible seeing this guy who was the hardest working guy you ever met, who when he retired, he couldn't stand it. He added on like 3 extensions to his house when he retired because he couldn't stand it. And he's reduced to immobility. First he just starts trouble getting around, and then he's got to use a wheelchair, and then he lost all movement in his arms and legs. He was essentially quadriplegic. And right now, as I record this, he's in his final moments. And it's been a long, hard road. They called in hospice for us. They called him in like 2 weeks ago and said he only had a little bit. And he's, because he's tough as nails, he's just fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And, I don't know that he realizes he doesn't have to anymore. He's stage 4. He's terminal. It's just horrible to watch the best person that you ever knew suffer so badly like that. It blows my mind. It makes me question everything in this reality. It really, really, really just devastates me because that was the best person I ever knew. And everyone who met him says the same thing. This not just me being biased because I was his grandson. And that's what happens at the end. That's what happens to you. You shrivel away to nothing. You lay there in pure, unadulterated agony. And no matter how much extra strength pain medication the hospice gives you, you're still in agony. That is so fucking unfair, man. And it just goes to show you that if that's what happens to the best man that you ever know, we don't know what life's going to throw at us. And it's an eye-opening experience for me in a lot of ways. I'm trying not to break down on you here, guys. Forgive me if I do. This is the most profound loss I have ever experienced. But you have to live every moment, not as if it's your last, but as if it could be. And as if you don't want to take things for granted. You really need to appreciate every day and try to make the most of it. I know oftentimes we wait around on life. Like, the good old days are coming. The good old days are coming. Sometimes the good old days are here and you're just missing them because you're too stressed about your bills or about the problems with your wife or whatever might be ailing you out there, congregation. I'm not saying I have any of those. Actually, me and my old lady, that's my rock, man. I was married to a horrible shrew for a long time before I met this one. And she is my absolute best friend and tag team partner, and I couldn't take anything more from her. She couldn't be more supportive for me during this time. But what I'm saying is to all you listeners out there, life sucks sometimes, and the little irritating bullshit that sets you back and keeps you from achieving your goals does get to you. But don't let it ruin you. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it defeat you, because you only got this one life, and you got to make the most out of every single day. And that's my rant for the week. We'll be back with Air Paris right after this. Love you, congregation.
Whether you're having an autograph session, personal appearance, or live event, we got just the person you need to contact for all of those needs. SBI Bookings is home of some of the best stars in the wrestling industry today. They provide you with the best talent this business has to offer, from Kevin Nash, Larry Zbyszko, Scott Steiner, and many, many more. So who will you contact next time you're planning an event? The men of SBI Bookings. Check them out at sbibookings.com.
And we're back on the Midnight Black Mass, returning to the show this week for a part 2. We had him on just a few weeks ago. We got a really nice response on that interview, and we'll certainly talk about that. From WCW, NWA Wildside, Nashville, and more star, Mr. Air Paris. Welcome back, my man.
How are you, brother?
I am excellent. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing good, trying to fight off a little bit of a cold, but other than that, man, I'm living the dream.
Man, everybody's had that crud. It wiped out our whole household for like a week up here in the hills of Tennessee. So I feel you on that, man.
Oh yeah, man. Just trying to. I've skirted it this far, but knock on wood or something.
Right. Knock on something. But after we got off the air, the last time that you were here, you said there was a couple things that you didn't really get to talk about that you wanted to, so we're definitely going to address those. I said at the beginning of the interview, we got a really nice response on the interview, and we did. There were a lot of people that reached out on Twitter and otherwise, both to me and you, just to, let them know that they missed you, and we're happy to hear that you were out there and doing good. So how did that feel?
Oh man, it's always nice hearing from folks, man. I've kind of been so disconnected from wrestling, except for just a few friends here and there. That it's good to kind of catch up with folks that you haven't heard from, or maybe even never met that were watching what we were doing. That's always nice, man.
Yeah, it's amazing, how small the world has gotten with technology in that respect. Back in the time when we were actually doing it, people who saw the TV show and things, of course, got to see it. The internet was there, but it wasn't like it is now, where social media literally connects everyone
Thank
with
God.
the click of a.
Thank
for
God
the good and the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some road trips. I'm thankful we didn't have Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff at the time. I may not be so
know.
happily married right now.
Yeah, or some of us might be in jail, or there's really no telling what the consequences could be for some of the hell raising that we had. One of the things you said that you didn't really get to talk about was just the level and the impact that Bill Behrens had on your career, and you just really wanted to give a minute to talk about him, so I'm going to let you roll away.
Well, the thing about Bill is he got the ball rolling completely for me. I was doing local indie stuff nobody was seeing. Got a chance to go and work with him in Loganville. He took the Air Paris name and stuck that on me, which at first I wasn't sure about. He took the 2.5 minute Kid Rock intro theme song and told me I needed to get rid of that because it was 2.5 minutes I was wasting. He got me in front of some folks, got me to Nashville, started, getting some steam behind me and putting me in there with people who could make me better. And just for that, I'm thoroughly grateful to him.
Absolutely. Bill is, he finally won that award this year, the Ted Allen Legends Award over at the GeorgiaWrestlingHistory.com website, which I think, eventually that award's going to be named after him, or at least his name will be on there with Ted. At some point, but it's interesting that he had never won that, and I, like Stephen Platinum was saying, I can't think of a guy who has mentored more people, Yeah,
absolutely. And that continued on. Excuse me. When I started booking the show in Cedartown, all the names I was bringing in, he was brokering all those deals for me and getting me those people and helping make sure that they showed up. So that he's always. It never changes. He's always there to help as long as somebody, is willing to ask or help themselves a little bit.
Yeah, he for sure is. And I know Bill hates to say that feels like people feel like they need to defend him because he's got a great reputation. He certainly doesn't need to be defended to anybody. Yeah. But, there's certain people that always seem to have a crawl up their ass about Bill for some reason or another. And, he's just one of the most genuine people. Like, he's short and curt. He's from Minnesota. He's direct. He don't have that southern hospitality, But, he'd give the shirt off of his back for lots of guys. If it wasn't for him, the whole NWA Chattanooga deal that I ran wouldn't have gotten off the ground. He goes out of his way to help everybody that he's ever worked for, whether or not it benefits him at all. People think, oh, well, he's just in it for the money. Well, if he's helping me out, he's not in it for the money because he ain't getting nothing out of it,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure money's tied over at the Behrens household anyway. I actually called and spoke to Bill just before Christmas just to say hello, and we had a good conversation, man. Just catching up a little bit. Hadn't spoken in a while, and kind of went back and forth and reminisced a little bit over some funny stories, and just good to catch back up with him. Yeah,
it's always good to talk to Bill. He's like that family member, that great uncle or granddad or dad that's like, you don't see him every so often, but when you do see him, it's like, he'll give you the shirt off his back. Like I said, he's one of the most generous and caring guys in the whole business, and so glad to hear him getting his accolades. So the other thing that you wanted to talk about was, and we kind of mentioned it, but we just never got around to it.
I was just more, this is something you had mentioned about wanting to talk about, so I just didn't want to disappoint by not getting to it,
Exactly. It kind of came up in conversation, but we never came back to it, so let's come back to it. Sabu.
All right. Okay. Here we go, right?
Suicidal. Yeah, suicidal, homicidal, genocidal, world champion, makes his debut for NWA Wildside, Athens, Georgia, names on the marquee, Air Paris versus Sabu. It's huge. Take it over.
Well, man, let me start by saying there's not a bigger Sabu fan than me. Half the stuff I was doing, I tried to rip straight off from him,
Right.
So when they and you were there, so when they started announcing that he was coming in, he was going to do 2 nights, I was in Bill's ear. Hey, I've got to be one of those matches. Got to be. So get the build up. I'm totally excited. Me and Alan did a pretty good build up for it, I thought, going back and forth over who's going to be world heavyweight champion and all that. And then we got there, and without going into gruesome details on anything, I'm not here to not do business that way. You know what I mean?
Right on, yeah.
But the match was a letdown, is putting it mildly, I guess. You were there for that match, right?
Yeah, a letdown, to put it mildly, is for sure. It was a damn disaster. But, hey, everybody has bad nights, certainly. Like you said, there's no sense on putting anybody's business out there. But, you don't know what was going on with him personally that day. I'm a huge fan, too, of Sabu. Always have been, and always will be. I've talked to him since then at a show or two, and he's always been business. It's like he just had a bad night. But, but how fucking terrified were you of dying in that match?
Man, to be honest, I wasn't that worried about it. I was more just, and this is going to sound like I'm kissing tail or something. I was more concerned about the people that had came and were excited for that match, man. Those fans were, they were rabid, I had done an interview on whatever the UGA radio station is, and said that I was going to kill Sabu and then beat up half the Georgia football players. It was crazy. So we had a pretty good crowd that night. I'll never forget, I took a bump over the rope, and some guy in the crowd said, "Why don't you have a drink, you son of a bitch?" and throws his beer in my face. So that tells you the kind of crowd we had. But I was just disappointed in the performance of the whole thing, man. It just if everything had came off the way we had went through it, I think it would have been excellent. Just an excellent match. But missing some springboards and a couple of just mistimed things. The thing that really that's legendary or whatever, I've said that's the worst match in the history of the business. And I was a part of it, so I think I'm allowed that privilege, right?
Right on.
So, the thing that everybody remembers about that is the Frankensteiner spot, though. Where he gets on the thing and jumps over and then does the Frankensteiner on top, but he leaned back instead of throwing himself back. So at this point, I'm trying not to dump him on his head, and I ended up he got dumped on his head, and I dumped myself on my head trying to protect him, but. That's one of those things I always was proud that I didn't ever hurt anybody, and I would have done anything to fix that, or just I wish I'd have known. Hey, let's just scratch this. We don't got to do it. But then he starts yelling, "Man, pin me, my neck's broke."
I remember that.
Yeah, I think the crowd does, But I'm laying there trying to make sure I can move my legs at this point, hindsight's always 20/20. So I wish I'd have just pulled it together and rolled over, and I would have been NWA World Heavyweight Champion for about 22 hours or so. I would have beat AJ to that at least.
It was a miracle that both of you made it out of that without any serious injuries, and the unfortunate results of that was that it pretty well killed Athens at that point. We drew up to like 1,200 people at that show, I think, and after that, we came back with a couple of things and we did okay, but it was never quite the same. But it, like I said, it happens.
The next night though, to his credit, and Sabu's a great guy, nice guy, man. I'm still a huge fan, and the next night he came in and was awesome business. Did an angle with Tank Abbott, set up the whole match, and he was Sabu, man, and all was erased, and everybody got what they paid to see.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because that, I thought, was one of Bill's most magnificent pieces of one night booking that he had ever done. You had so many factors at play. You had crazy controversy from your match in Athens coming right into that. So nobody knew where Sabu was at, mentally, physically, for the match.
Yep.
But they knew he was going to be there in Cornelia. So what do? Bill does the ultimate swerve at the beginning, where of course they have Tank Abbott as a hired hitman for the NWA Elite jump Sabu and punch him and break his jaw. And so, Sabu comes back out with his jaw taped up. They think, oh, well, that's going to be like the smart fans think, oh well, you know, he's got issues again tonight, so he's not going to be able to perform. And that's how they're going to get him out of it. But of course, little did they know he was fucking on 100%.
Oh my
and
God!
So
you
awesome. Throw him out there with you and AJ, and it was a one-on-one match with AJ, but it essentially turned into a three-way at some level.
Yeah.
It was electric, and that was my first night on commentary in the building, and I got threw up there by myself.
Hey, at least you had something good to call, right?
Yeah, it made it easy.
Yeah, and it's funny, man. When the lights go out and they come back on, I think they expected the worst when it was me instead of Sabu at that point.
Right.
And so, you know, we kind of let the wind out of themselves a little bit, and then me and AJ picked them right back up, just doing what we do, I guess, or what we did. And that second time those lights went out, man, when I was laying on the table and Alan goes up right after doing the point and all that, man, that place came unglued. I mean, that was I don't think any situation could have been booked better to get the most out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really well done, and just okay. You know, you rarely get to be a part of those really electric moments where like the hair stands up on the back of your neck, and the people in the building, you can feel that legitimate energy, and when you get to be a part of those, it's something special. That was definitely one of those.
Oh, I was marking out. You know, laying there on the table and the lights go out and the place comes unglued. I was marking out for that myself, but. That's one of those nights where, you know, you remember these, Bill would say, all right, Frankie, you're going out to do an interview. Don't cuss. And I'm sure you remember, first thing I'd always do, man, not intentionally, but that's just who I was at that point, you know. Gotten a lot better at holding my tongue. You know, three-year-old running around, you learn to watch those things. But back in those days, if Bill hadn't told me not to cuss, I probably would have never thought to.
Right.
And here's something. David Young was telling me that he was standing at the monitor watching with Sabu when I did the interview about him getting his jaw broke. So he starts running around trying to find tape to get his jaw taped up. So that added a little bit of extra, you know, for the angle there that we did earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just loved that. You know, they really, one of the few moments where they legitimately got the fans, you know, and they were happy about it. It wasn't like a stupid, the Russo swerve for the sake of a swerve. It was like this was cleverly planned out to get this reaction when he finally came out and did what he does, and man, it was just amazing. So,
it was 2.5 minutes of just greatness there, you know.
So there you have it, folks, the good and the bad of the Sabu experience. So that story has been told. At least what we're willing to tell here. You know, we talked a lot about your time.
Choose option 7 on the hotline later tonight. That's my Mean Jeans pitch right there.
Hey, 1-900-909-9900.
And I'll never forget that, sadly.
So, speaking of WCW, you know, we talked a lot about your time there, both before you actually had a contract, when you were actually on the road with them for quite a while, and what they would call nowadays as an extra. At that time, it was, you know, jabroni, security guard, whatever.
Enhancement talent.
Now they're extras. But so if just looking at that time, you worked with a lot of guys who are no longer with us, and you know, we saw recently, you talked about it here on the show, Sean O'Hare passed away. Omen from the power plant passed away. Of course, we lost Canyon a few years ago. I thought it'd be kind of nice to maybe reflect on those who aren't with us anymore that you worked with during that time and your thoughts about them.
And, you know, talking about Canyon, I'll never forget me and AJ, and this is sort of morbid and in its own way, but me and AJ had lunch waiting on an airplane. I don't even remember where it was at. It was a tiny little airport, though. And we had lunch with Jerry, who was the Wall, who's passed away, and Canyon was there with us too. And they were just, you know, trying to look out for young guys, which was, you know, a lot of people, they don't have to do that. But, you know, they were always good about that. The one guy I thought was that really broke my heart as far as when he passed away, and I wasn't close with him, I got to be around him. I knew him a little bit. But with Chris Candido, just because of the story there at the end of his life,
Yeah, it's like he had made that comeback, and things were looking
Absolutely.
so good for him, and then it was just such a freak accident as far as the way he died.
Yeah.
He broke his leg, I think, and had the blood clot,
Yeah.
and then he flew with the clot as he didn't know, and it went to his brain. Like, that's just so random.
Yeah, absolutely. And Candido he always had that character he did, was sort of the goofy, fun-loving guy. I mean, that was who he was, The times I got to be around, it was great because, going all the way back to the ECW days, I was a Candido mark, even in Smoky Mountain. So, because he was a small guy, even though he's big, he was a small guy doing cool stuff. So, I was always a Chris mark.
Yeah, I was too. Just a fan. You could tell he was a guy that just really loved the business. And sad to lose him. Equally sad, maybe more so to a degree just because I knew him better, it was Canyon. You mentioned him. He was a guy that wanted to look out for the young guys. And, I'd been to his house multiple times. Like, Prazak had gotten me over some parties he had over there, like his WrestleMania parties. Like, I'd been to his house probably a dozen or more times, and he didn't know me that well, but still, like, if I wanted to get somebody to hook up on tickets when they were coming to town, somebody would call me, I could call him, and he would do it, like no questions asked. Like, he didn't even know me that well. He was just that good of a guy.
Yeah, I don't remember how we got to it, but me and Bill actually talked about Canyon when I spoke with him the other week. And I'd actually touched base with Chris. I got his number. I don't remember from who. Maybe Chris Long. I can't remember. But I'd gotten his number and tried to touch base. I wanted to, everybody had heard he was, in depression and all that. And I was doing some shows, and I wanted to book him as Mortis. I wanted to bring that back, try to give him a chance to just come out and have fun and do some wrestling and just get his, sometimes you just need to be away from whatever it is you're in the middle of. So I'd gotten in contact with him a little bit. He just had zero interest. How Canyon was. He was always outgoing and loud, that New Yorker, and joking and razzing and all that. And he had none of that, man. And it was probably, man, I'm terrible with dates and timelines, but I'd say probably 3 weeks before he passed. Yeah.
That sucks. Depression is wicked, man. I mean, I've dealt with it on a not to that degree, like on and off through my life. And it's something that, man, it's like when you get on the other side of it, you can see that, man, it's like it was nothing. But man, when you're in the middle of that pit of despair, it's sometimes difficult to get out. And unfortunately, he didn't. I also think, he was a little ahead of his time. He was in an era where it really wasn't acceptable as much to be openly gay. Had he stuck around just a few more years, I think he would have saw just how much better things have gotten for that community in terms of society overall. And, maybe that would have helped him, but I don't know. It's just sad. You can always say what if, but it's just the guy that you miss,
Oh, yeah, he was, folks are folks, man. I don't care, be you know what I mean? But yeah, he was a great guy. He's one of those guys that it was terrible to lose. Funny little Canyon story. We were wrestling, I guess it was the night we were with the Gin Dragons on Thunder, I believe it was. And I was working with Kaz a little bit in the ring before the show, and I picked him up for the Burning Hammer, right? And Canyon's nowhere around. And I hear him yell from across the arena, "That better not turn into a sit-out power bomb." He thought I was trying to steal his stuff. Oh, but yeah, I mean, just that, that loud, thick accent from across the arena, just booming. "That better not turn into a sit-out power bomb." I'll never.
Yeah, he always reminded me of the Cowardly Lion the way he talks. Like, and I loved it. It was just amusing to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Cheers to a good dude.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we, I've got one Chris Benoit story. If you want me to tell that one,
go for it.
It's a terrible mark out story on my part, but I mean it was Chris Benoit. And this, before all the tragedy and everything that surrounds the end of his life. This was a pretty cool story. So I was in Cincinnati with Prince Justice, who's a Abyss now, and Chris Harris, and some more local guys, and we were getting ready to go out to the bar. That once in a while we would do that. I don't know if you know much about me and Chris and Abyss, but it would be once in a while.
No, never.
So we were pre-gaming at Applebee's before the game started. So we walk in and Chris is sitting at the bar. Just, waiting on food or something. We're all marking out, because we want to say hello, but we don't want to seem like idiots. But leave it to me. I'm okay looking like an idiot. So I walk up and I ask him for, if we could have a chair. And I'm like, man, I'm a huge fan, and shake his hand. And he turns around and looks at the table, and he's like, these guys wrestlers too? And I said, yes, sir. So he says, introduce me. So I bring him over. He introduces, speaks to everybody, shakes everybody's hand. I think it was the very first day he had taken bumps after his neck surgery. So we invite him to, sit with us, and he kind of said, I'm just going to wait and get my food, that kind of thing. So we thought he kind of blew us off, which, that's completely okay. He didn't have to come over and shake everybody's hand and say hello. Right. So he goes back, gets his food. He's getting ready to go to the hotel. He comes back, says hello to everybody, or says goodbye to everybody, calls everybody at the table by name, which was, unbelievable. Kristen Law knows my name, right? I was a 12-year-old girl at that point. And he leaves, which was cool. We're all sitting there marking out for ourselves because we think we're big shots, right? And the bartender comes over and says, hey, what's everybody drinking? Because I've got to close his card out. He just bought everybody another round. How cool is that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, class act. Didn't want to take any credit for it or anything like that, but that's that's my big Chris Benoit story.
That's crazy. I've only got one Benoit story, and it was probably around the same time, probably a little bit before that, because he had just had the neck surgery. I was at a Raw with AJ when he was doing one of his dark matches, and you could tell he was in a lot of pain, and he actually had Nancy and Daniel with him, but he still, even the scrubs, nobodies like me who were just hanging out back there, he went by and shook everybody's hand as well. That just shows you. I truly believe what the people who knew him best say, that, just something snapped there at the end of his life. I really don't foresee that being something malicious,
Yeah, that. I mean, that's a tragedy. There's no way to ever condone that or to. You can't put a positive spin on that. You know what I mean?
There's no way. It's horrible, but I do think the mental illness thing.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Because the guy I met, even though it was brief, he was. You can't see that coming out of him.
No, and the people who knew him best, Chavo and Eddie and all of the people who, spoke of him in private, intimate moments, they said that, he was a little rough, a little hard-edged guy, but he was, he was a real genuine, hard-to-go dude.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Canada is a harsh environment. It breeds harsh individuals.
Well, we took a turn for the morbid, didn't we?
Yeah, hey, it's life. It's part of life. Some people don't like talking about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it because I think we all have to deal with it at some level,
Absolutely.
But let's bring things back into non-talking about death. Let's go and actually, did you have, over the course of your entire career, can you think, did you have a match that you would call a favorite?
And a lot of those, to be honest with you. I've got some with David Young that I loved. Most all of them were fun, I've got one that sticks out in my mind. Me and Chris Harris, we headlined the Tojo Yamamoto show at the fairgrounds in Nashville. And the reason that one sticks out so well, I mean, it was a great match. We went a long time, but before, me and Chris always rode together. I feels like I always come back to Chris, but I mean, that was, my traveling buddy. But so we went to Bert, we'd come up with the idea riding down the roads and maybe having a few brewskis and all that we wanted to do an old school, long main event. We wanted to give people money's worth, right? So we asked Bert if we could do 30 minutes, and he's like, man, there's no way you can do 30 minutes. You guys aren't good at, you're not good enough to do a half hour, so no, you can't do it. He's just telling us we can't do it. So we're like, well, give us 30 minutes, we'll do it. And so we go out. It was, oh God, it was terrible to begin with. The guy, they thought he had a heart attack and fell off the bleachers in the fairgrounds. Turned out he had drank too many beers and had too many slices of pizza. Indigestion caused him. But there was like a 30-minute intermission. Yeah. An indigestion heart attack right before our big 30-minute main event, right? So we go out and we do the match, and man, it was long, it was great. We told a good story and official time on the match, and this is and you can ask Chris about this when you get to speak with him. We went 29 minutes and 59 seconds, and that, man, that's start to finish, 29:59. So Bert, you know, it was just funny because he told us we couldn't do 30 minutes, and then we didn't. So that's one of my favorites, just for the sheer irony of it.
It's like, see, we did. What was the time? 29 and change. Damn it!
You know what, man? Talking about stuff with David, I'd like to find a video of the ladder match we did the night before. You were there for that ladder match in Nashville where I took the German suplex on the ladder, weren't you?
I think so. Was it the Bad Attitude against you and was it using Rob Williams?
I think it was me and Rob. Yeah, that was fun, man. Just for the sheer brutalness of that one bump, I think that kind of made it. I believe that was right before Christmas Chaos, the match where me and AJ worked, and the finish was a superplex, and I rolled over and had my arm on him. Yeah, I think was the day after. And it's funny because I had icy hot patches taped to the back of my arm. You know, a lot of fun matches. You know, not a lot of. I don't have one big favorite, but most all of them have something that kind of sticks out. You know.
Yeah, I couldn't pick a favorite thing that I'd done either, but I'm always interested to ask people if they think so, and that's typically the response you get is that, you know, there's a few. For anybody that takes pride in what they do, there's always a few.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
So, you know, I'd really love to get David on here. He hasn't really seemed to show much interest in doing it. You know, I talk to him pretty frequently, but
yeah,
I don't know if he's afraid he would just go crazy and start burying people or what. But
man, the thing I love so much about David is you know, there's no filter. You know,
none.
You're going to get David any time of the day. You know. But yeah, I think he'd be a great guest on here, man. He's trying to actually branch off. He's talking about doing some stand-up comedy, which I think would be unbelievably funny. The only bad part about that is I'm afraid I would be 75% of those jokes.
Like, he's not saying my name, but I know it's me.
Yeah, I'd be that guy in the corner just pissed off and sulking in my beer.
Oh, hell.
Actually, I got David back around the wrestling show. I did a breast cancer fundraiser a few months back, and set up a thing where he got to manage his son-in-law and his brother, and that was fun, man. Just getting him into a dressing room environment is always entertaining.
Yeah, he's not able to do much work-wise because he's needing knee surgery. I heard him say he's known guys who've worked on worse, but he's not working now, so he might as well get it fixed. But I have seen where he's done a couple managing shots like that. I know he was asking Bill if we're going to ever do this Wildside reunion show that people talk about, that he hold off until he gets his surgery done so he can have his retirement match on it, which would be cool.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That'd be fun. Is that something that's actually in the works, or?
It's something that, like, me and Jimmy Rave and all the old crew are really trying to push Bill to do, and especially since they got this new owner that's taking over the building now and things look to be continuing in a good way there. I think it's high time, and it's a good time to do it before, you know, we're all not able to. We've lost a couple already, so, you know, it would just, it's Speedy Nelson and some of the others that are no longer with us, so, you know, it would be nice to get everybody together before we lose any more, honestly.
Yeah, you know, we talked about Wildside last time, and we didn't know what was going to happen with that. I actually worked. I did and you know, I told you I've been disconnected from wrestling for so long, but I worked a tag match down at the Southern Fried show in Monroe for those guys, Chris Nelms and Jerry Nelms and all those folks and Charles down there. And man, they run a great show. So I think that is a win for the Wildside fans there, the Anarchy fans there. I think that's a really good a good end to that story for them.
I think so. I mean, it's good to get a promoter that ain't afraid to spend some money and knows that, you know, it's indie wrestling and he's probably not going to make a ton of money, but if he's got a chance at it, he's going to have to spend some too. And too often promoters, they don't want to promote. You know, it's like they want to do everything. They want to book. They want to be on the show, but they don't want to do the one thing that their job requires, which is to let people know that there's a show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, I went down, me and Terry Lawler wrestled against Buff and Robert Gibson down there. I mean, they treated me well, and you know, they were just, it was a well-run show. So I'm excited for the fans and the fact that, you know, they get to continue wrestling in that building. That's great. I think they'll be good for it.
Yeah, I do too. Like, he's renovating it allegedly and investing in, you know, some just the whole repackaging of the building and things. Like, it's needed some work done on it probably for a long time. So that's awesome. I'm excited for what they got going on. I'll be down there visiting probably more frequently than before.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'd love to come out and just watch some shows, man. Just try to catch up with some guys. It's, you know, it seems like a million years ago, wrestling was a part of my life. You know how it is. You got a kid. You know how that goes. Kind of like sleep, man. It was a million years ago, right?
Right. That's the parenthood thing, man, is you never, like, my grandma told me that before my daughter arrived. She goes, "Now, Daniel, you just get ready because you ain't going to get another good night's sleep the rest of your life." I was like, okay, well, here goes. And boy, she was right. You know, even when they're sleeping through the night, you know, you got them on your mind constantly, so you always got to sleep it with one eye open, you know.
Oh, yeah. I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. My daughter, I think she rolled out of bed right about 10.
Yeah, man. It's a great experience, you know. Not to get all sentimental, but parenthood is by far the coolest thing that I've ever done.
Absolutely.
And you know, anybody that don't want to be there for their kids, I feel real fucking sorry for them, to be honest with you, because they're missing out on, like, the greatest experience that life has to offer, really.
Oh, yeah, being a dad's a cool gig, man. You know, you got a built-in fan that you don't got to work sympathy out of or you know, do a hot tag or anything for. You got a built-in fan, man. And that's you know, there was a long time there. I didn't think I'd ever get to that point, but you know, being me's a pretty cool gig nowadays, man.
Awesome. Well, veering away from the wrestling thing, we had Gunner from TNA on here last week or a couple of weeks ago, as this will air. I'm trying to do my broadcasting math here in my head, but regardless, he like many of our guests, we got to talking about music, and of course I'm a big metal fan, and you know we got into all that, but music's a big part of your life, always has been, yeah. And as far as fandom goes, you are like one of the biggest widespread Panic fans I've ever met. You just care to talk about like how their music has impacted your life and what draws you to that type of music and sort of your relationship with that in wrestling and how it all ties together.
Well, man, I'll be honest with you. I had never. My first Panic show was in November of '99. And, you know, I knew a few songs here and there. I had some buddies who were big into them, and I always had them on and stuff. And I kind of really hate putting it like this because it sounds like being one of those people. But when you say you really got to hear them live, that's the way it is. And I went and saw them, and, you know, the hook was set. If I had to estimate how many times I've seen those guys now, I would underestimate just to be safe, and I would probably say 175 times or so. Something like that. Yeah. I mean, and the cool thing is that my wife loves it, and she digs it, and so it's something we can do and go have fun, you know, doing. Like, we've seen them in Vegas. Man, I'm an idiot. I've been together with my wife for 3 months, and, you know, just dating 3 months. Flew her to Vegas for a Panic show for her birthday. Whoa, that's setting the bar way too high, you know. So I've had to live up to a 3-month Vegas trip ever since. But man, they're one of those bands that you can go and see 3 nights in a row and never hear the same song twice, which is, you know, what really draws me in. Catalog somewhere around 450 songs, something like that. It's just good rock and roll, man. Take the Grateful Dead, turn them up to about 11, give them some Allman Brothers, maybe a touch of Skinner in there, and that's kind of how I'd describe Panic.
Cool. I've never, like, the jam band thing's really not so much my scene, though I can respect, like, what they do for damn sure, you know, and I think the players are magnificent, and, like, the ability is magnificent. You, man,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but to be honest, they're the only jam band, quote-unquote, that I listen to. Right. Other than that, I'm more of a classic rock guy. You know, I'm friends with the guys from Driving and Crying, who, you know, I used Fly Me Courageous for ring music for years. That's a pretty cool thing. They actually came and when I was running the Perks building, you know, those guys, you know who Driving and Crying is, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, everybody knows Straight to Hell and Fly Me Courageous. Those are the 2 big ones. But they actually, they wanted to come and watch a wrestling show. And you know how it is, kind of some guys with a little bit of celebrity, you don't think they want to come out and actually do it. They'll just kind of, you know, tell you they want to do it. But next thing you know, getting a call, and they're like, hey, we're in the parking lot. Where should we go? So you got these music, and those guys are Georgia music legends, you know. They've got connections with everybody in the Georgia scene from widespread on up. But you know, and those guys are sitting 5th row, and Fly Me Courageous comes on, and they all jump up and start marking out for their own song and stuff. Maybe it was for me, I'm not sure, but you know, it's funny because when you get around people who play rock and roll, I mean, wrestlers all want to be rock stars, right? But it's funny because most rock stars, and most rock stars want to be wrestlers. It's funny, man. There's just a real direct correlation between the two. It's an easy friendship.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like when the Devil's Rejects thing wrapped up, I decided I wanted to go out and do a new thing, and I kind of wanted to manage a tag team. So we came up with this Hate Junkies deal, which is like some gutter punk rockers, kind of based off of like G.G. Allen and the Misfits, and you know that type of thing. And like I had no idea this guy's become a buddy of mine since then, but Robert Everett, who was known as Suave Rob at the time he was in the band, he actually played bass for G.G. on the G.G. and the Carolina Shit Kickers album. He was in the audience the night the Hate Junkies debuted. It was just like one of those magic universe things, and we talked about that afterwards. It was really cool. But, that's amazing how that can work out.
Yeah, one of my first nights in Loganville, man, I think I'd wrestled Bart Sawyer, to be honest with you, but we were doing the old Polaroids in the ring. You know how that goes, trying to work the gimmicks, right? And some guys were all tatted up and came in and got their pictures made with some of us. And I don't remember how it came up as to who they were, but they were in the band Rancid. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of those guys were at a local flea market indie show in Georgia, which I thought was pretty cool.
I once went to an ECW show, and the band Anti-Scene was sitting in the front row. I thought that was kind of cool.
Wow. But I'll have to be honest with you, that's the old man in me coming out. I don't know the Anti-Scene.
Oh, they've been around for a long time. They're just like super underground. They're like just like southern, like really hardcore metal and punk. They sing mostly songs about wrestling. Like they got a song about called Sabu, and like the singer gets color on stage. Yeah,
dude, I have to check that out. That sounds killer. Yeah.
Yeah, you would probably dig them.
I'll have to check that out. But you know, I knew the ICP. I knew they did a lot of wrestling related stuff.
Yeah, it's ANTI-SEEN, Anti-Scene. They're
cool.
There's something
else. Man, after I did the show with you last time, man, I went back and listened to some of your other shows and stuff, and the one where you interviewed Unknown Henson was ridiculous, man. That is cool as crap to me.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I've not seen him 135 times, but I've probably seen him like 11 or 12 times.
Man, he's a killer show. I've not got to see him, but I've seen a lot of video on YouTube and stuff. He can play, man.
Oh, dude, like especially you want to catch him in a big city. Like he'll play Chattanooga and he plays more of the trimmed down set, and it's still awesome. But if you catch him in like Nashville, where he'll play the big like 3-hour long set with a break in between, and like just come back out and jam on Hendrix songs and shit, like that's where you want to see him. It's just awesome. He does when he calls Little Wang.
Oh yeah, he's a troubadour, man.
The king, baby, the king.
He is man. He's awesome. I'm a big Squidbilly fan. Widespread was actually on Squidbilly.
I saw
perpetuating a bit of a stereotype on there. I won't go into that kind of business, but perpetuating a bit of the hippie jam band stereotype, just a little bit.
Of course, I thought of you when I saw them instantly. Like that will every time I hear Widespread Panic, Paris is going to come up. But man, looks like we're already out of time again, and this has flown by yet again. So amazing how that happens.
Man, it's always fun to talk to you, Dan. I appreciate it, bud.
Oh, my pleasure, man. You're welcome anytime. Let me know when you want to come back on, and we'll do it again.
Man, I've had a ball, brother. Anytime you need me or need anything, don't hesitate. Just holler at me, okay?
Hey, we'll do, brother. Take it easy.
All right, thanks, man. Bye.
All right, fans. Air Parrots Part 2. Lively interview talking about a whole host of topics. We kind of got the origin story out of the way in the last episode, so now we really got to delve into some superhero antics, so to speak. So thanks for joining us this week on the show. We'll be back next week with more Midnight Black Mass. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. This is the Rev, and I'm out.